All right, welcome back to the Elias Macko Show. It has now been over 2 weeks since the war between Israel and Hamas broke out. We've spoken to people on the ground over those last 2 weeks, from Canadians stuck in Israel on their journey home to Montreal. We've spoken to military reporters. We've also spoken to concerned Montrealers with family and friends that are stuck in Gaza. Today, we go to one doctor and his perspective on the ground in Jerusalem. Dr. Mark Clarfield was with the Faculty of Medicine at McGill University from 1978 to 1992 before moving to Israel, where he is now chair of the National Council of Geriatrics of the Israeli Ministry of Health. Dr. Clarfield, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about, you're in Jerusalem, right, at present?
I am.
What is happening in Israel today? What is, what is the mood in the country as we've now passed 2 weeks?
Right. Well, the mood is obviously tense. I mean, this war has just begun, unfortunately. We have a ways to go. After this pogrom that happened 2 weeks ago, just over 2 weeks ago, we are stuck in a life and death struggle with a terrorist organization called Hamas, which claims to speak for the Palestinian people, but clearly brings only death and destruction on their heads and tries to bring death and destruction on us, and did so a couple of weeks ago. So things are tense. The army is gathered outside of the Gaza Strip, waiting for orders to go in and try and root out Hamas. Missiles keep flying into Israel as we speak. There have been 6,000 missiles sent from Gaza to Israel over the last 2 weeks. 6,000. Each one is a war crime. So you can see that things are tense, but we're ready to fight, and we'll have to fight to get rid of these people. Not to get rid of the Gazans, God forbid, not to get rid of the Palestinians, but to get rid of the dictators, the terrorist dictators that rule over them. That's what we have to get rid of.
What do you think? In this country, in Canada, you've probably seen this. There are calls from members of Parliament, 33 in fact, 23 of them are members of the Liberal Party of Canada, that are calling for a ceasefire. That's what they want to see right now. And you've probably heard that. There are calls for a ceasefire from all around. What are your thoughts on that? A call for a ceasefire?
Well, of course, I'd love a ceasefire, because anything that would stop them shooting at us and us returning fire would be good in the short run. Unfortunately, I'm a doctor, and I know that smearing an antibiotic cream on a festering wound is not the same as an intravenous infusion of antibiotics. And we've been through this. This is maybe the fifth or sixth bout that we've had with Hamas shooting rockets at us and us shooting, firing back from the air. And then there was a ceasefire. I think what happened 2 weeks ago, this pogrom, where 1,400 people were murdered in cold blood on our borders, means that we don't really have any choice. And as much as my heart, and I'm a chicken at heart. In other words, I don't want to get blown up, and I don't want to blow anybody else up. But we have to do what's right, which is to root out Hamas, whatever it takes. I'm not a military man, I'm a doctor. But using clinical analogies, sometimes you need to do radical surgery to save a patient. And here I think we have to do radical surgery, not just to save us, although yes, to save us, but to save the Gazan people from Hamas, because they bring this down on themselves. This is not the first time this has happened. So I'm afraid that while I'd love to see a ceasefire, I don't think it's the right thing to do. Although, again, I'm not a military man and I'm not a political scientist, I'm a physician. But that's the way I see it. And I think that's the way most Israelis see it. Nobody wants to hurt a hair on the head of anyone in Gaza. Why should we? Why would we want to do that? But I think if you had 6,000 missiles flying into Montreal from the American border, you wouldn't, you'd want to root out that problem, right from the very root of it. So that's my view of it.
Dr. Clarfield, as you said, you're not a military man, you're a physician. So let's talk about that aspect. Let's talk about what's happening in hospitals. Obviously, last week, there was the explosion or the strike at a hospital in Gaza. And now every single intelligence community in the West is pretty clear that it was a fire from Gaza that caused that. So let's talk about what's happening in hospitals and how your job has changed over the last little while.
Okay, so the hospitals, we have a very strong health system, and in fact, the health system here is based on a law very similar to this Canada Health Act. We don't have time to go into it, but we have the same principles. There's a socialized medical system, cradle to grave, for which you don't pay a penny for almost anything, you know. So we have a good system, and it's strong. It's well organized. The Ministry of Health is a strong ministry, and we've been through this before. So the hospitals know what to do. Now, 2 weeks ago, when Soroka Hospital in the south, where I work, that's the main teaching hospital that supplies the area around the Gaza Strip, they were overwhelmed with hundreds and hundreds of severely injured and dead people. We've gotten over that initial shock. We're ready. We've reduced the elective surgery. We've sent people home that could be sent home, and the hospitals are kind of on standby, awaiting a war,
casualties,
an exacerbation of the fighting. But there's one thing I do want to say about the hospitals. You know, this one hospital that fake news claimed we hit with a missile. Fake news. It was just a lie. As you said, everybody, the French, the Canadians, finally.
Yeah. Took way too long.
A little quicker on the draw.
Yeah.
The Americans quickly, the Israeli army very quickly. We have no interest in hitting a hospital. We know that it's not only wrong, we also know what it brings down on our head from the political pressure point of view. So we don't try and hit hospitals, and we didn't hit this hospital. But I'll tell you that there's the hospital in Ashkelon, which is a city just north of the Gaza Strip, a big city, a major teaching hospital that my university uses, and that I've headed a medical school that sends students to this hospital it's called Barzillai Hospital in Ashkelon. Ashkelon's been hit by hundreds and hundreds of missiles. The hospital, I should have looked this up before I came on. The hospital's been hit by several missiles already. And fortunately, knowing where they are, they've built to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars an underground hospital. So part of the services, the ICU for children, the women's delivery suites, the ORs, are all underground. But Hamas has been sending missiles to this city and to this hospital for 2 weeks, and nobody talks about it. And one hospital is not hit by Israel in the Gaza Strip, and everybody's accusing us of war crimes. So I think that gives you a sense of the disproportionate sympathy there is, not for the Gazan people, but for Hamas. These people are murderers. They've sent 6,000 missiles indiscriminately into Israel. Every single one of them is a war crime. And people aren't talking about that. I believe me, I wish I knew why.
Dr. Clarfield, we're with Dr. Mark Clarfield, chair of the National Council of Geriatrics of the Israel Ministry of Health, joining us from Jerusalem. Dr. Clarfield, I have those same questions that you have, and I think some of us know the answer to those questions. But I do want to take some time with you to discuss, because you've traveled in your career to other countries that have been having wars of their own. I know specifically Ethiopia. I'm not sure if there are others there.
Correct.
So in your career, traveling to places where there is strife and war, and comparing it to what you're seeing now, I'd love your perspective.
Well, look, every war is a terrible thing. It's very hard to compare wars to wars. I've been to Ethiopia. I've been to other parts of the world. Every child that's killed, be it in Israel or Gaza, is a whole universe. Israel is strong. We'll withstand this challenge. But how many people will be hurt is another story. You have to be prepared. I think that Israel, sadly, is prepared for conflict. We don't want it. We don't invite it. We're prepared. Ethiopia, where I was, they were totally unprepared for conflict because, of course, it was a civil war. It was a civil war, and you can't defend yourself against your own government. But in situations of that we're in, preparation in advance, kind of like how you prepare for electrical ice storms. I have a friend in Montreal that we joke about what happened a number of years ago. You have to be prepared. You can't be surprised by a ice storm. Montreal, that's the climate.
Yeah.
You can't be surprised by it. The fact that you guys were surprised by it and the whole system fell down, and that's a question of planning. We have planned for being attacked. The ministry, the army, we're ready for it. But wars are a terrible thing. I have my 3 grandchildren and my daughter who live near the Lebanese border. They've moved in with us for the duration. Is that a week? Is that a month? Is that a half a year? They've moved here. Their schooling is not destroyed. Their schooling is interrupted. Their lives are interrupted. They're lucky they have grandparents. There are hundreds of thousands of Israelis spread all over the country, in answer to your question, living in hotels right now because they can't live close to the Lebanese or the Gazan border. So we prepare as best we can. We're used to it in quotes. We know what we're doing. We protect our population. We built bomb shelters. The Gazans haven't built bomb shelters, and everybody says, "Oh, the poor Gazans, they don't have bomb shelters." I feel they are poor. I don't mean that sarcastically for a moment. Why haven't they built bomb shelters? Well, if they didn't attack us, they wouldn't need them. But let's leave that out for a second. They haven't built bomb shelters because they've used the concrete that they've smuggled in from Egypt to build tunnels underground and military facilities, not hospitals, not bomb shelters. That's why the Gazan people are suffering. We're ready and prepared for this terrible thing. Other countries are less prepared, and who wants to be prepared for war? I mean, could you imagine if the Americans were bombing you right now? What it would feel like? That's how we feel.
Well, and that's the thing. I think for a lot of Canadians, we don't understand that reality, and that could be a reason why perhaps some people have differing views on this one because they don't know the realities.
I think you're right. I think you're right. I don't think it's necessarily anti-Semitism or bad blood. I think people just are naive. They let them come here for a minute, and I'll show them around. They won't be naive anymore, and that's sad but true.
Dr. Clarfield, I wish you the best. Stay safe, and I thank you so much for speaking to our audience.